Okay, so if early in the morning I drop my delicious and lovingly prepared cup of coffee all over my bed and the floor before I even get a chance to take the first sip, based on true events, by the way, does that mean it's going to be a bad day? Is it a bad omen of even worse things to come? Is it karma I'm paying off? Or, God forbid, is it a sign that I should not drink coffee anymore?
Please, no.
Or did the cup just slip out of my hand because I was still half asleep and didn't get a good grip on it? A situation is always neutral until we give it meaning. Or as Tony Robbins says, nothing in life has meaning except the meaning we give it. Now really think about it. Don't just dismiss this as a cute quote. Really consider how profound it is and how it can affect the meaning of your life as a whole. If nothing, no situation has any meaning until we choose to attach a thought and an emotion to it, it means we can change the meaning any situation in our lives has, and therefore start to shift how we experience life in general. Imagine the power of catching yourself in a thought, and instead of just acting on your first instinct, you stop and consider your options. What if you stopped and said to yourself, okay, this happened, but it's just a situation. Its existence has no inherent meaning, it just is. What choices do I have now? Will I make it mean something scary that will give me anxiety? Will I make it mean something sad that will break my heart? Will I make it mean something neutral and give it no further thought? Or will I make it mean something good that will serve me? Or just make it a good story I can tell one day that will either make people laugh or maybe even inspire them or help them? You see, we have all these choices, and we often don't realize how much power we really have. We let our thoughts and our emotions run our experience and just submit to it like a leaf blowing in the wind. To me, this statement, a situation is always neutral until we give it meaning, reminds me that I have a choice and that I don't have to submit to my initial reaction. I don't have to take my thoughts and emotions at face value. I can question them, explore alternatives, and give them the meaning that will be most beneficial to me and others. My spilled coffee, although obviously different from what I would have liked at that moment, is just spilled coffee. The rest of my day can still be great if I choose it to be. Now, of course, I didn't just create this episode to talk about spilled coffee or small setbacks. It's about all the stories we tell ourselves about situations, about other people, and especially about ourselves. When something doesn't go your way, what's the story you tell yourself? Is it, damn it man, this always happens to me. I think I'm the unluckiest person in the world. Or when someone doesn't respond the way you expect, do you think, I think they don't like me, or I must have done something wrong? And when you look at yourself, what story are you holding on to? Is it, I'm just not one of those people who get things right, or I'm not the kind of person who can deal with this stuff? These stories become the lens through which we see the world, and they shape how we interpret everything. And these interpretations then guide our actions, and they give us more of the same results, whether good or bad. And that's why we need to really practice awareness. Most of these stories aren't facts. They're assumptions we've created based on our thoughts and emotions in the moment, and just like with spilled coffee, the story we tell ourselves about it can cause unnecessary suffering. I came across this Buddhist story that illustrates it beautifully. One day, a man was rowing his boat across the river when he saw another boat heading straight toward him. Now, he started to get a bit uncomfortable and irritated and shouted toward them, "Watch out and move your boat." Now, the dear boat showed no change and kept moving straight toward him. Now, as the boat drew closer and he was able to get a good look, he realized it was empty. It was just an empty vessel drifting with the current. When he realized that, he laughed, moved his boat aside, and continued on his merry way. Now, later he reflected on this moment. He said to himself, if someone had been in that boat, I would have been really angry at them. But the boat was empty and my anger disappeared immediately. The obstacle was the same, but the meaning I attached to it was completely different. This story is a powerful reminder that most of the situations we encounter are neutral. It just is what it is. The meaning we give them, whether we make them into a threat, an opportunity, or just nothing at all, is what's going to shape our experience. Now let's take an everyday example, because I assume most of us don't travel around in boats. Let's say a friend seems distant and cold toward you. Now, option 1, you interpret their behavior as, I think they're mad at me. It must have been because I said that one thing. But that wasn't so bad, was it? There's a reason I'm not an actor, just bear with me. Now, this thought spirals into arguments in your mind as you convince yourself you must have done something wrong. And then maybe even over time you decide you don't need this friendship and you start to withdraw. Slowly but surely the distance grows and eventually you lose connection. Now, option 2, same situation. They seem distant and cold, and your first thought might be, I think they're mad at me. But this time, you catch yourself. You pause and think, what else could this mean? Maybe they're going through something in their life and they're just not ready to talk about it yet. Or maybe they're not even upset with me. They could be thinking about a completely different situation with someone else, and they're having arguments with them in their mind. So this time you say to yourself, they don't seem happy right now. I think I'll check in tomorrow and let them know that I'm here and remind them that I care. And this small shift changes everything. Instead of creating distance, you nurture the connection. They feel loved and supported by you, which strengthens your bond. And even if they were upset with you for some reason, if you connect with them in that way, they'll be willing to open up because they feel safe, and then you can work through it and fix whatever needs fixing. So the obstacle, their distant behavior, was exactly the same. But by changing the meaning you attach to it, you change the outcome. Now, you might say, if someone intentionally hurts you, then the situation already has a meaning and you have no control over it and you naturally become its victim. But it's still not true. The person who inflicted the wrongdoing might have done that with malicious intent, and through that they might have directly affected your life. But as soon as it arrives on your doorstep, it is up to you to decide what meaning it will have in your life. You remember my favorite sentence? Yes. Life is unfair. Now what? Here's an example. A colleague spreads a rumor about you at work. Option 1, you interpret this as, they're out to ruin my reputation because they hate me. Now, of course, you feel betrayed and angry and replay the situation in your mind over and over again. We've all been there, I have too. And you might start avoiding them or even consider retaliating. This tension creates a toxic environment which affects both your work and mental well-being. Over time, it may escalate, turning into a full-blown fallout, which puts you in a bad light. And although it wasn't initially your fault, now you are being seen as overreactive and dramatic. Or there's option 2. You catch yourself and think their actions were wrong, but it's likely coming from their own insecurities and struggles. It's not about me. So at this point, you decide to focus on your integrity and how you can respond in a way that aligns with your values. Instead of retaliating, you maybe address the issue calmly and professionally, setting boundaries or clearing up the misunderstanding with others. And this allows you to take control of the narrative and maintain your self-respect. Also, your calm and unaffected demeanor will probably also show others that the rumors are unlikely to be true. And next time they will probably question rumors about you. So again, the obstacle is the same, but because you attached a different meaning to the situation, you took different actions, and therefore you got a different outcome. Just a quick side note. I want to make it clear that I'm fully aware that life is complex and we are complex beings with complex thoughts, emotions, and backgrounds. But the more tools, maps, and insights we gather, the more we have to reach for to get us through a wobble or a speed bump that feels like Mount Everest. Everything I offer you are things that I have experienced that help me and others, and I share them with you with respect for your pain and without diminishing the severity of your situation. I'm just hoping that these tools can at the very least offer you a bit of ointment for your soul. So next time you feel yourself reacting and automatically assigning meaning to something, pause for a moment. Tell yourself, this is just a situation, it is neutral and has no meaning for me yet. At this point, I get to choose. And knowing that, what would I like it to mean? If I could choose, what would I like to think and how would I like to feel about it? For example, my coffee spilled. That's it. It has no further meaning. Or my colleague must be really unhappy. It's not about me, and maybe I can find a way to at least neutralize the relationship so that we can coexist in peace. A situation is always neutral until we give it meaning. By reminding yourself of this, you interrupt the thought pattern, and this way you give yourself a gap to create a better story, feeling, and meaning. At the end of the day, spilled coffee is just spilled coffee. But the story you tell yourself about it is what shapes your experience. And if you're ready to start practicing this right away, you can try this. Think back to a recent situation or an old situation if you want to. Anything where you felt stuck, hurt, frustrated, or defeated. What story did you attach to it? And how could you rewrite that story in a way that feels lighter and more empowering? I'll leave you with this wisdom I once heard from Sadhguru. Thoughts are just thoughts, and fear arises because of excessive imagination. So instead of producing horror movies in your mind, choose to produce a comedy or a love story. That's it from me for today. Thank you for hanging out with me again. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I hope that you choose the meaning that will benefit you the most in your life. Remember to always stay powered by progress, and I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye.